So I'm continuing in the video series where I compare different colors around the color wheel. Today is the cool reds. Now, some of you might say there's no such thing as a cool red, but these are just the more cool leaning reds that I'm testing out today. I've chosen two fairly popular ones, magenta or quinacridone magenta and alizarin crimson hue. These are both golden because I just happen to have the golden brands today. One thing to know about alizarin crimson hue, you want to get the hue version or the permanent alizarin crimson version, because the original just alizarin crimson doesn't have a great light fastness rating, so it tends to be quite fugitive. So if you want your work to be permanent, get either alizarin crimson hue or permanent alizarin crimson. So today I'm comparing these two colors. Let me just grab the other colors. I'm mixing them with these colors and some titanium white as well, just to see what sorts of colors that you can get out of both of these colors. Just a few samplings of colors, just so you can start getting the idea of what kind of mixes can you get. And this is great if you're trying to decide which of these two colors do you actually want to buy, if you're trying to limit your palette. This might help you choose. So let's get started. Just move these out of the way. So this is just the sheet that I'll do my comparisons on. We'll start with magenta. So this is it, just as a pure color. Now let me just add a little bit of titanium white, so you can start seeing different colors that or how it looks when you start to lighten the value. And I'm just doing this really quickly, so I'm kind of running out of room on my palette today. There you go. You can see the value range, a bit of the value range you can get out of magenta. Now let's see how it mixes with some of these other colors. So I've done some pre-mixing already. This is it with ultramarine blue and very little magenta. So it makes a really, really nice dark color. And I'll add a little bit of white, and you can see it's really started to push the ultramarine blue into the purple. Now here's the mix with a lot more magenta in it. So again, really, really dark color. Add a little bit of titanium white, and there you go. Next up is the phthalo blue green shade. So here it is with a lot of the phthalo blue green shade. Again, really dark color. And if I add a little bit of titanium white, let's just add a little bit more so you can see it a little bit better. It's a little bit more of a less intense of a purpley blue. And here is the same two colors, but mixed with a lot more of the magenta. And again, really, really dark color. Let me just add some titanium white so you can see what we're working with. There you go. Next up, cadmium lemon. So here's the first mix, and that's with mostly cadmium lemon and just a little bit of the magenta. Like a lot of yellows, it's not the most powerful when you're mixing, so I really didn't need much of the magenta. And there it is, the bit of white. I'm just gonna add a little bit more white. There you go. And here's cadmium lemon, but with a lot of the magenta. That's a really nice, vivid color. Really nice reddish, orangey reddish color. And there it is with a bit of the white. Now cadmium yellow medium hue. Here it is with a lot of the yellow in it. And add a bit of white so you can see. Now, one thing to keep in mind as I'm doing this, I'm not making sure that I use exactly the right or the same amount of magenta and the mix color. It's really just going by, feel and what examples, just showing some examples of what these colors can mix. So this is the first little bit that I put down was with a lot of the magenta. Again, really nice intense color. Less intense than the magenta by itself, but still a really, really great fiery red, I would say. And there it is with a little bit of the white, so you can see the difference between those two quite a bit. You can see this one's, if you want to call it brighter, but you can see like there's almost more of an intensity to that one than this one. And now just a quick look at burnt sienna. Because they're both reddish tones, I don't expect a major difference, but you can see it makes for a really nice, rich color. And add some white. And there you go. Nice purpley red. And here it is, leaning more towards having a lot of burnt sienna. I'll add some white. There you go. Now let's move over to alizarin crimson hue. Start with it as the pure color. That's what it looks like. Start adding a little bit of white to it. A little bit more. Whoops, probably added too much there. And just really one more with the mostly white and just a little bit of the alizarin crimson. Whoops, got it a bit watery there, but still allows you to see it. So you can see they're quite different colors. Quin magenta is much more intense than alizarin crimson. One thing about the alizarin crimson, because it's the hue version, you're not having the traditional alizarin crimson single pigment, but it's a mix of different pigments. So this version is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different pigments, including quin magenta, to help create this color. Okay, now let's take a look at it with some ultramarine blue. So again, really, really rich, nice, dark blue color. And white added to it. So you can see about a bit more of what color you're really getting there. And now a version with a lot more of the alizarin crimson. Again, really, really dark. On the white paper, it looks almost black. And just add some white. Some really great purpley shade there. Now, phthalo blue green. Another really, really dark blue, and now let's add a little bit of blue, or sorry, the white. You can see I didn't even add that much of the alizarin crimson there, but you can see how much darker this version is than just the pure phthalo green. And then it's just kind of a mildly neutralized version there, or the alizarin crimson hue really mildly neutralizes the phthalo green, which is great because phthalo green is quite the intense, or phthalo blue green is quite the intense color. Now let's look at it with a lot of the alizarin crimson. So again, another almost black color. Now I've added some white, and it's still quite blue. So I'm just going to take a moment and do one extra mix with that. Think about some of these shades that, or some of these mixes that mix really, really dark, is it's actually hard to know what you're actually getting until you add the white. So just give me a moment here. Now let's take a look at this one. Just squeeze it on here. I'm not, again, dark, dark, dark. I'm actually not sure, just like that other one. I'm not sure how close to magenta this will be. Let's add some white and find out. There we go. Still a lot more purple. I'm sure you could get it a lot closer to the reddish color, but the darks you can get out of it with mixing with the phthalo blue are pretty fantastic. Just imagine how many different shadow colors you could probably create out of this range. Okay, let's look at cadmium lemon. So here it is, mixed mostly cadmium lemon and just a little bit of the alizarin crimson, and there's a slightly paler version. Let's see if I can add a bit more white. There you go. And there it is with a lot of the alizarin crimson hue. Now what's interesting about this mix, I think, is that it really gives you an earth tone. So if you don't have burnt sienna, you could work with something like that. And add a little white. There you go. Now, cadmium yellow, medium hue. Here it is with a lot of the yellow. Just gonna clean up my white here. Get some clean white. And here it is. Oh, a little bit more white. There you go. Now, here's the version that leans more towards having... Okay, I took a look at the second color that I just put down for cadmium yellow medium hue, and I found once I added it to the paper, it was so similar to the previous version that I just mixed a little bit more alizarin crimson so that we could get a color that leans a lot more towards the alizarin crimson. So let's go right over top of that. And again, just like with the cadmium lemon, it really gives you a color that you could use if you didn't have any earth tones. Now I'm just gonna add some yellow or white, just to bring the value to be brighter. See what we've really got there. And last but not least, we have our burnt sienna mixes. So we'll start with one that leans to having a lot of burnt sienna. So not too far off. That's probably not too surprising because alizarin, crimson hue, and burnt sienna are really not too far off of colors. One is definitely browner, one is more purpley. But you can see the similarities when you compare it to other colors on the color wheel. And one last mix of a lot of alizarin crimson. Now let's see how this one turns out when I add some white to it. There you go. Now my thoughts on these two are, I'd probably actually keep both of them on my color palette, at least for a while longer. I really appreciate the intensities that you can get with the magenta, the quin magenta. There's some really, really beautiful colors. I mean, the way they mix with the yellows to make a really, really beautiful red and nice, really warm yellows. I just love that. It does make really nice dark blues and purples when mixed with ultramarine and phthalo. So I think it's really fantastic. And if I'm doing a painting where I want more intensity, it'd be fantastic. Alizarin crimson, while it also kind of fits the category of a cool red, just like quin magenta does. It's more of a muted color, I would say. The blacks, it can make so many different blacks, or very, very, very dark grays, I guess you could call them, that it would be so useful. And I love that they're not too intense. Like once I add a little bit of white to start revealing what color you're really dealing with, these are some really fantastic colors. And I also like how it could be used instead of even having a burnt sienna on your palette. You can get some really, really beautiful colors here too. So happy painting if you're trying out these. If you're just choosing one for your palette and you're just trying to decide which one do you really want, I'd go with, are you aiming to have more of muted colors in your paintings or more intense colors? If you want muted, go with alizarin crimson. If you want more intense bright colors, quin magenta.